Thanks everyone for coming tonight. I'll call the May 9th, 2023 Pleasant Ridge City Commission meeting to order. May we have the pledges of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Budnick,
Here.
Commissioner Lenko,
Here.
Commissioner Perry,
Here.
Commissioner Schmier,
Here.
Mayor Scott.
Here. All right. Are there any items from the public tonight? I think we've got one.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Commission, staff, viewers. Ted Zachary from 68 Devonshire. And I have 3 points. Ferndale is participating in a no-mow day. In other words, you don't mow your lawn just for the month of May. And I think it's a real good idea. It's environmentally friendly. It helps the pollinators and doesn't cost anything.
Yes.
It suspends grass and weed enforcement. So that's the only change, just the enforcement, just during the month of May. I think it's a real good idea, and I would encourage you to proclamate, or however you word it, No Mow Day in Pleasant Ridge. It'll show other people that you are concerned about the earth and are concerned about the residents too, for their health and well-being. It shows that you care.
Thank you.
Okay. So my number 2, I was encouraging a thing called just plain telling short stories. There's a long story about it, but I don't want to go too long. But it's just asking residents to come to the recreation center during a certain time. Hopefully we get maybe 6, 10, 12 people, and they would tell short stories. True stories, short stories, less than 5 minutes long. And Shawnee was quite enthusiastic about it, and it's going to be in the Ridger coming up. It's coming up probably in the fall. And I'd like to be there. I'd like to tell short stories.
Cool.
That sounds like fun, actually.
There's a moth.
I know,
Is it more
it's like
moth
the-
or is it
right.
like StoryCorps?
Yeah,
is it meant to be recorded or is it meant to be
No,
consumed?
Not to be recorded.
Okay.
And it's just a casual thing. And I think that if it does happen, I think it will, people will get to know each other.
Yeah.
Because we all have stories. And since you mentioned moth, I got into the moth program too. I was on stage twice. And it was really nice to hear the audience reaction. And it was beautiful. My first time, I brought a visual aid. And I found out that you're not supposed to have a visual aid.
Oh.
So it's just
There's a
talking.
visual aid made for radio.
Yeah, went over my head on that one. But I have a visual aid to it. Well, I'm excited about it that it may happen. It looks like it will happen. So spread the word.
I love that.
So we all have stories, and okay. My third point does have a visual aid. I think it was about 2 weeks ago I planted some seeds, my butternut squash. I hope to get more than 120 pounds this year. Last year was 112 pounds.
Oh, my goodness.
And I left that visual aid at home. But I brought this visual aid. And I planted seeds just, I think, 2 weeks ago. And look how tall it is right now.
Wow. We've had a lot of rain.
And
Yeah.
it does work. You have the seeds. And I brought seeds.
Oh, good.
Oh, this is squash?
This is butternut squash. And if anybody wants some extra seeds, visual aid and hearing. Anyway, I have more seeds if anybody would like a few seeds to start. And there's
Thank
time. Okay, I think that's it. Any questions?
No, thank you.
No, thank you very much.
you.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'll come get some seeds later.
Okay.
I'll
Good.
come harass you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ted.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask?
And in the fall, I'll bring another visual aid.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Yes.
Do we have any data on tickets or citations based on lawn heights and weeds thus far?
I don't know that we have any, I don't know that we've actually looked at it on a sheet.
Okay.
But we have we issued any tickets this year yet?
This year, no.
No,
Okay.
none this year yet.
Okay. We're like
It's-
a third into May.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's 8 inches, so
Right.
it takes a while to get there.
And that's across the whole lawn, right? Like that's the average of the,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
rough science. Okay.
Right. All right.
All right. Okay. Curious if it's a problem if people are participating in no.
Oh,
May
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we still are enforcing the ordinance. 8 inches is quite tall.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the police will make contact, and it doesn't really even get to a written citation, the
okay.
vast majority of the time.
If somebody cites that as a reason, could we maybe consider it?
We do whatever the commission directs. So we enforce the ordinance unless told otherwise by resolution of the city commission.
The good news about a day is that it's just a day. So you could.
It's a month.
Oh,
It's no mo May.
It's no
It's
mo
no more May. Oh, that would be a
I know
problem.
some of us. I know some of us have been.
Days, and-
yeah,
yeah,
have been talking about it a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been a conversation.
Yeah.
Two sides.
Yeah. No mo May and February and May and August, I guess, are different. It's just, we'd probably get to 8 inches on a spring or summer day. Yeah. So we'd have to talk about it here if we wanted to do it.
And that's what Ferndale did. They just said, we're not going to enforce, and that was the city
Mhm.
council there who decided that. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Were there any other items for public discussion today? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to the liaison reports. Commissioner Linko for
Sure.
school.
Schools, yeah, and so May is also, in addition to NOMO May, Teacher Appreciation. Well, this week, anyways. And being married to a teacher, I understand the effort and energy that goes into the profession. So thank you, teachers. And if you're a student, please be courteous and gracious to your teachers. The state of the district went off, what was it, April 20th, a couple Thursdays ago. That was a really nice meeting with the superintendent, Dr. Goodrum. And the good news is that the cabinet is fully staffed at this point. So Felicia Wright is the new assistant super over facilities, and she's really going to be the like Robert's been super helpful in connecting the dots, but she's going to be the person driving the car when it comes to the facilities decisions. So there's going to be listening meetings coming up in the fall, leading to next school year. So now that the cabinet's fully staffed, they're going to be doing a lot more outreach and listening sessions. So more to come on that. But really, it's end of the school year. Graduation's coming up. It's been an awesome year, and enrollment's looking really healthy, and
Great.
yeah, and it was a successful year from sports, music, all that stuff. So yeah, go Ferndale.
Yes. All right, so any questions for Alex? All right, we'll move on to planning with Commissioner Perry.
Thank you, Mayor. The Planning Commission and DDA met recently, and they were discussing the upcoming 5-year plan, and that it's very exciting how much we have accomplished from the last 5-year plan, and so I think it's a really good leaping off point. And Jim's looking at me. Is there anything else that I'm trying to think what some of the other priorities were we were talking about in that meeting, and I'm
Well,
very sorry.
a 5-year plan sounds very Soviet.
Oh, it does. Well, where did I get into the 5-year plan? Maybe it's the master plan.
I don't know, comrade, but
The Chinese do.
Okay, I take that off. The master plan, sorry.
Yes. So we last created a master plan 10 years ago. It was adopted in 2015, but work was started on it in 2013. So I think it's time for a new one. So we talked about restarting that process with the Planning Commission and getting ready. We've the current budget has money allocated for this upcoming fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 to bridge those 2 years, to spread the cost for a master plan process over 2 years and to work towards getting a new master plan for the community. Lots changed in 10 years. so around us and,
Yeah,
and even
a lot.
here.
Yeah.
So it's time. Looking forward to taking stock again and engaging with the community and finding out what our vision is.
Well, the last master plan process was really great, especially the recreation part of it too. It's like there was so much great community involvement.
Right,
and-
that's a good point too. We had, in the past, we had a master plan, there was land use, and then we had a recreation, Parks and Recreation master plan. We're talking about this time about doing a comprehensive unified plan. So addressing transportation, parks and recreation, land use, all of it in one plan.
Oh, that's cool.
Because we have complete streets plans, we have our traffic calming manual, we have the Parks and Recreation master plan, which hard to believe, but that was done 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's due. So, since it's a small community and land use is not a big issue for us, let's address all of these things together that really make up the character of what Pleasant Ridge is.
Yeah, and I was talking with Tom Wilkinson, who is the chair of the DDA and the Planning Commission, and he wanted to make sure to really encourage people to participate in this. As we kick off the plan this year, you can see the old master plan on the city website. And so make sure to go in and check it out and see what looks interesting to you about it, but also then bring forward your ideas. You can attend the planning commission meetings, as well as we'll have special community outreach meetings as well that you'll be hearing about as they get it all figured out. Our next meeting will be the fourth Monday in July, I believe, and then I'll keep you updated on that. But the group, it's a really great group because we have people on the Planning Commission and DDA who come from many different backgrounds, but all very much relevant to the discussion. And, they're all residents, so that makes them relevant to the discussion. And it's I encourage people to come to the group because I always learn a lot at every meeting. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yes, please.
So just a couple, is there a specific community outreach strategy, or is the idea just for the residents to come to DDA meetings?
There will be,
Okay.
but right now they're still putting it in place, right?
Yeah, and we'll be doing an RFP and getting a consultant on
Yeah.
board to help with the process, and then they'll lead the engagement process, so all TBD.
And in terms of the phases, like I remember when I was on DDA, so like every 10 years is kind of a blank page, like big refresh. That's what this exercise is going to be, right?
State law, the Planning Enabling Act requires you to review your master plan every 5 years. So you can continue to review it and say it's still relevant as long as you'd like. So the Planning Commission did that 5 years ago and said, no, it's still valid. It was only 5 years old at that point. But now it's really a judgment call on the community's part about when the plan needs, a new.
So if we wanted to include things like cybersecurity or cyber infrastructure that might not already be in there, that would be something that would come up in one of these meetings.
I suppose it could.
Okay, cool. Like a unified app across all the different platforms, like paying your water bill and signing up for swim lessons and something like that could potentially be in there.
In a community master plan?
Or like
So-
a recreation vision. Anyways,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's entirely possible that the master plan might say communication is a major aspect of the city, and here are a few things that we do to make communication happen easier
Okay.
in parks and in the buildings and for residents.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Schmier with the Historical Commission.
Oh, wow. We have a lot. Lots happening. We basically meet every week now. Okay, so number one, I hope everyone has started to notice DIA Inside Out. They have put 9 works of art throughout the city. They will be up, so there's 9 of them in total, and they will be up through October. And keep an eye on the city Facebook page. Because there will be tours coming too. So there will be someone, I believe, from the DIA coming out and giving tours.
That's cool.
Museum will be open this on the 20th. So not this Saturday, next Saturday, 10 until 12. Come check it out. The Historical Commission actually has a workshop tomorrow to talk about organization within the museum. So, and some future changes. So come now, come later, keep coming, see those changes. home and garden tour. There is always room for more houses, so if anyone is interested, definitely reach out to me or reach out to anyone on the commission, the historical commission. Also, keep your eye out because as it approaches, we will be looking for volunteers for kind of subcommittees and also for docents the day of. So just keep an eye out for that. 100-year tiles, just as an FYI, they have been ordered, but I think we've been quoted about 120 days. Hopefully they'll come in sooner, but at this point, 2 to 3 to 4 months. And then the last thing, and Mayor Scott, I don't want to steal your thunder on this one, but Then and Now, Volume 2 is at the printer. It's at the printer. It's being done.
Wow.
It's now.
It's now. It's now. A huge thank you also to the foundation who did contribute money for the printing. So we couldn't have done it, or they couldn't have done it without that support, which is awesome. But it is coming. So I'm not sure, and I don't know if you have a time frame on how long the printing will take, but we are hoping it is soon. And at the very least, there will be a copy of the book at the foundation auction happening on the 20th. So
Wow.
if you haven't bought your tickets, buy it now so you can also see the book.
We had a couple of the copies of the book printed out. It looks fantastic, and the information in it, it's amazing how much more detail is present in the book than the copy made now 40 years ago. We just were able to find a lot of more information, some really pretty pictures, really interesting pictures about the city. Thanks to Jim for having reviewed it and checked for content. It's a nice thing. I think a lot of people will want it.
Yeah, I agree. And that's all I have. So thank you.
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say what the cost was on the book? Or do we not know yet?
To be determined.
Great,
We
thank
did
you.
vote on it. I don't know if it's
Okay, that's
next
fine.
meeting.
Great.
Next meeting.
Can't
So next
wait.
week we'll have a.
I mean, historic. Yes. I mean, we seriously now meet weekly, so there's a lot happening, which is
Thank
good.
you. And on to the Recreation Commission, with Commissioner Budnick.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Good evening, everyone. So, show your love for PR, and I'm going to take a page out of TZ's book with a visual aid. So we have these lovely
Cheesy.
PR shirts, T-shirts in adult and youth sizes. So, $25. There are shirts in at City Hall, so you can just kind of check to see what sizes look right. If you're a medium, you want to see if you're actually small or medium. You can kind of take a look and size it up. And there's an interest list circulating online, so be on the lookout for that. The citywide garage sale is Saturday, May 13th. The cost is $25. You must be registered by May 11th, 5 p.m. to be included on the map. And next, the Memorial Day ceremony is Monday, May 29th at 9 a.m. at our very own Memorial Park. The city will present a ceremony in memory of those soldiers and emergency personnel who sacrificed their lives and to honor those who continue to serve with dignity and courage daily. There is the beloved daddy-daughter pool party, which is Thursday, June 1st from 7 to 8:30. It's always a huge hit, especially in my house. It's on the PR pool deck, and that's $10 per person. The fee includes swimming, entertainment, light refreshments, and each person attending must register by May 29th. And then PR Pride Swim is Thursday, June 8th from 8 to 10 p.m., adult residents only, and that registration begins on May the 15th. Sounds like a great time. Tennis lessons are offered at Gainsborough Park, and that begins this week with first serve. Check for more information online or in the Ridger for class ages, times, and skill level. And almost finished here. Please renew your pool tags during open or current pitcher ID. So check page 5 of the Ridger for the May-June pool schedule. And if you have misplaced your Ridger, it's available online on the city's website. And we are excited for residents, guests, and visiting teams to see the installation of our new 6-lane scoreboard. So heard it looks pretty sweet. The city and swim team is grateful to the foundation for their support in this joint venture to enhance yet another one of our facilities and programs. And one last note, we would like to thank Mayor Scott, who celebrated with the PR Blue Jays on Saturday morning at opening day for the 2023 baseball season. He threw out the ceremonial first pitch to start the season, and I saw, photos circulating online. It was at a minimum 85 mile an hour fast. From what I can tell. I wasn't there. I'm just.
And in total truth, it occurred to me as I was walking up, I have never thrown a softball. so I'm like, I'm hoping I don't completely screw this up and have a 5-year-old tell me how to do this. But it was a lot of fun.
And last but not least, the next Recreation Commission meeting, if you're interested in joining us, is July the 26th, which is the last Wednesday of the month. And we're full committee, ready to roll.
Cool.
great.
Yep.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. That's
You're
all I have.
welcome. All right. Moving on to governmental reports. Do we have any governmental reports today? Wow.
Due to the length of the meeting, I'm declining.
Okay. All right. No governmental reports. So we'll go on to the consent agenda. For those of you that have not seen the packet, there's a lot in the consent agenda. I just encourage you reading it. I am going to read one proclamation in particular. June is we have a National Gun Violence Day in June. We know a lot of people are, tuned in to what's happening around the country. It's just sad to think about what's going on. Pleasant Ridge has participated in with other cities in Southeast Michigan to produce this proclamation, and so I'll just read it to everyone so that we're aware of it. And we do encourage everyone. It's June 2nd, I believe. Encourage everyone to wear orange on June 2nd. And the proclamation reads as follows. This proclamation declares the first Friday in June to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Pleasant Ridge to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to end this public health crisis. Whereas every day, more than 120 Americans are killed by gun violence, and an additional 200 are shot and wounded, with an average of more than 17,000 gun homicides every year and 25,000 gun suicides annually. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to die by gun homicide than people in other high-income communities or countries, and whereas Michigan has 1,382 gun deaths every year with a rate of 13.7 deaths per 100,000 people, a crisis that costs the state $16.8 billion each year, of which $380.5 million is paid by taxpayers. Michigan has the 25th highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S., and whereas gun homicides and assaults are concentrated in cities, with more than half of all firearm-related gun deaths in the nation occurring in 127 cities of 24,000 cities or so. Whereas cities across the nation, including in Pleasant Ridge, are working to end this senseless violence with evidence-based solutions, and whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is mayor's highest responsibility, and whereas support of the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories, and whereas mayors and law enforcement officers, in partnership with local violence intervention activists and resources, know their communities best, are the most familiar with local criminal activity and how to address it, and are best positioned to understand how to keep their citizens safe. And whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as we see an increase in firearm homicides, non-fatal shootings across the country, increased calls to domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. Whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at age 15, and on June 2nd, 2023, to recognize her 26th birthday of Hadia Pendleton, born on June 2nd, 1997, people across the United States will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day and wear orange in tribute to, number one, Adia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence, and number two, the loved ones of those victims. And whereas the idea was inspired by a group of Adia's friends who asked their classmates to commemorate her life by wearing orange. They chose this color because hunters wear orange to announce themselves to other hunters when out in the woods. And orange is that which symbolizes the value of human life. And whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June 2nd, the first Friday, June of 2023, to help raise awareness about gun violence. And now, therefore, let it be resolved that Mayor Brett Scott of the City of Pleasant Ridge declares the first Friday of June, June 2nd, 2023, to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local community's efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. And I just encourage everyone, if you are a firearm owner in Pleasant Ridge, be a responsible one. Our police department is here to help you be a responsible firearm owner. They've got lots of good information, locks, whatever you need to help this trend. Thanks for taking the time to hear, and we'll go on with a motion.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mayor, I move
Oh, go ahead.
we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Any comments? May we take a vote?
Commissioner Lenko,
Yes.
Commissioner Perry,
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier,
Yes.
Mayor Scott.
Yes, the motion carries. All right, on to a light topic, utility bill rates.
Oh,
They're all light topics tonight.
actually, I think,
Oh, did I miss
nope,
one?
you did not. I did. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Scott.
No
Uh,
problem. Thank you.
Every year, the utility rates are adopted by resolution of the City Commission. And let me tell you about them. The proposed rates are on the screen. The ready-to-serve charge of $47.46 per bill. The combined water and sewer usage rate of $85.57. Sewer usage covers the sanitary sewer treatment portion costs that we are assessed by Detroit Water and Sewer. An infrastructure charge of 83 cents per front foot per bill. This was established last year upon recommendation of the Citizens Advisory Committee for Water Infrastructure. The garbage pickup fee of $27.10 per bill, and the equivalent residential unit stormwater runoff fee of $55.34 per ERU. And ERU, the stormwater runoff fee, covers our stormwater runoff charges, which is for the GWK drain facility run by the Oakland County Water Resources Commission. Information about the water infrastructure project is available at cityofpleasantridge.org/water. This is a large part of the water rates now. We do have some utility rate input changes. Our water cost is going up 4%. Stormwater treatment cost is going up 5.6%. Our sewage treatment cost is actually going down slightly this year based on some revised share calculations. However, our stormwater treatment cost is more than 2 times the cost of our sewage treatment cost. So there's still an increase. Cost components of our water rates, and these are non-water infrastructure cost components. Wholesale water and sewer costs are 55% of the enterprise fund. Operations and maintenance are 20%. Every year we do some sewer work, lining to keep our sewers in good shape. And then, of course, just water maintenance. As service lines break, as we have to go out and try to shut off properties, half the time it works, half the times we have to dig up and put in a new stop box because it doesn't work. Services, engineering, IT, insurance, utilities, et cetera, is 12%. 7% is GWK facility debt, and then 6% is related to staff costs. So the consumer impact this year for the average water user is a 6% increase in rates. Part of this is being driven by the fact that infrastructure costs continue to go up, and as we're keeping abreast of what current water infrastructure projects, water main projects are costing, and the revenue it's going to take to do ours, that's where we're at, unfortunately. Inflation was 7.8% last year, so I don't know. The water infrastructure funding is on 1/3 shares, spread across three items, 1/3 of which is the millage, 1/3 of which is the flat ready-to-serve charge that every household pays, and then 1/3 comes from the front foot infrastructure charge. So depending on how wide your lot is, you pay 83 cents per foot of lot width per bill. And each component raises about $327,000 for fiscal year '24. Our water infrastructure project, we're waiting for EPA approval of funds that we've been allocated by Congress, waiting for over a year to get through that approval process. It took the EPA over 6 months to issue guidance, and now we've provided all the information they need for state historic preservation review, and we're hoping for a categorical exemption from NEPA. I was told a couple weeks ago that that decision was coming, but we have she's new in the position at the EPA, and so we're working on it. We have applied for drinking water state revolving loan fund funds to accelerate the rest of the project. We're hoping this year with some supplemental money that the Michigan legislature has appropriated to the drinking water loan fund that we will qualify. This is an uphill. This is where all of the federal infrastructure, water infrastructure money is going for lead service lines. They allocated it to the state drinking water revolving loan funds. Michigan prioritizes disadvantaged communities. So basically those that are in the bottom 30% for household income, and we're in the top 1.1%. So we don't get those points, and those are very significant. If you look at last year's funded projects list, almost all of them were for disadvantaged communities. So it's a challenge to get this money, but hopefully with the supplemental money this year, we can qualify. So waiting to see. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have on utility rates. These are adopted by resolution and will become part of the fiscal year '24 budget.
Thanks, Jim. Does anyone have questions for Jim? Okay, may we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move that the resolution regarding the 2023-2024 utility bill rates be adopted.
Second.
No comments, so we'll take a vote.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes, the motion carries. And we'll move on to the next item to establish a public hearing for public comment on the millage rates and on the budget.
Thank you.
Jim?
There's a detailed letter in the agenda summary in the packet. I won't read that to you, but if you have 20 minutes of time and the interest, it's there.
It was very informative and very
Yeah. Good.
interesting. Yeah.
Your
Well worth
definition
your
of
20 minutes.
No, I was going to say I encourage everyone to
Yeah.
read it,
is.
if not to go through the full budget, but certainly.
Yeah.
As always, I'll give an overview of the budget. I won't call it brief, but I don't think it's tedious. So, the process, we set a public hearing for, I'm sorry, this should be June 13, fiscal year '24 budget. It is available for review on the website. We take action to adopt the budget generally in June, and it becomes effective. I obviously didn't update the slide, July 1, 2023. The budget is available for review at cityofpleasantridge.org/budget. Headline millage rates last year was, please,
Just, will be a correction for the, it's June 13th, right?
correct.
Okay.
The 2022 millage rate was 21.9997 mils. The proposed 2023 millage rate is 21.9147 mils. This is the first time in a long time that there's no Headley rollback. And the reason for that is the inflation rate multiplier was 7.9% last year. So when that's plugged into the Headley rollback calculation, technically this year we had a 1.01 something. So in order to keep up with inflation, our millage rates would have had to roll up, but you can't do that. Our property tax revenue will grow by 7.25%, so again, lower than the rate of inflation. We had taxable value growth of 7.4% due to home sales. The most that taxable value can increase without a home sale is 5% by Prop A. So most residents will see property tax increases lower than the rate of inflation because of the effect of Prop A. We do have a 0.4% millage reduction. There's no Headley rollback. However, our pool debt millage is being reduced. That millage adjusts every year to raise only the amount necessary to pay off the bonds on the pool. Those were passed in 2003, and the last year of levy will be 2028. So we're approaching the end of the pool debt millage. That'll roll off of our taxable value or our millage rates at that time. Also, community promotion is slightly decreasing because there's a cap on the amount of money that can generate. So when you look at our total millage rate over time, since 2014, it's been fairly consistent. You can see the new water infrastructure millage with the slight bump last year. In terms of the millage rate breakdown, when you pay your tax bill, we get a little bit less than half of the revenue from taxes. All the rest goes to all the other taxing jurisdictions, the largest being the Ferndale School District, then the county. County is close to 10%, the intermediate school district and community college are another 10%. And then that remaining 4% is for Oakland County transit that replaced SMART. And then that 2% is the Art Institute, the zoo, Oakland County Parks and Rec, Metro Parks. I think that's all of the components of the other category. So last month, we talked about some of the comparative data. I'm not going to go through that whole thing again. The presentation is available on the website on the city's finance page if you want to review it. But just in terms of budget overview and how we spend our money, we'll talk a little bit about some of the ground we covered last month. But you can see here there's a fairly clustered progression of Oakland County communities, and then there's 5 of us: Birmingham, Pleasant Ridge, Huntington Woods, Bloomfield Hills, and Orchard Lake. In terms of household income, that there's quite a jump. And you can see there the 2 kind of clusters that are a little bit of outliers, and we are in those outliers. And that does impact quite a bit of how we operate here. When you look at local millage rate, we're sort of towards the middle of the pack in what we charge. Of course, a mill generates a different amount of money in every community, so there's a lot of local flavor. When you look at per capita property tax revenue, again, you see that those 5 wealthiest communities generate the most property tax revenue per capita, although we are at the low end of that. Looking at total revenue per capita, again, we're up there with those 5, but not at the very top. And in fact, Auburn Hills jumps in, but Auburn Hills is an outlier. They have a very low percentage of residential there. So you see a lot of business tax there. When you look at property tax revenue per capita by millage rate, so the x-axis is the local millage rate. And you can see, again, we're kind of in the middle. But when you look at property tax revenue per capita, again, it's those 5 communities that are a little bit of outliers. And then that other one that's a little bit higher, around $1,200 per capita, that's Sylvan Lake. They kind of teeter in the middle on a lot of things. So over time, our general fund revenue by source, adjusted for inflation into 2023 dollars, you can see how that's changed and moved over time. Generally speaking, it's around that $3.5 million per year when you adjust for inflation. That's been the number around which we move. You can see the impact of COVID relief dollars in 21 through really 2020 through 2022. There was a lot of government federal money that was available for things, a lot of support and other revenue that was abnormal, that provided extra revenue in those years. If you look at revenue by source, the story here is always the orange band is state shared revenue, and you can see the decreasing share of that over time. Charges for services are basically non-taxable items that residents or non-residents are charged for services, and that declined in 2014. water rates were reduced at that time when the Headley override passed in 2014.
Yeah, may I ask, from our conversation at the zoo, with, I think it was Ferndale's city manager, wasn't Michigan Municipal League working on advocating for a higher share of state revenue share?
Yes, that's a constant.
Is there any traction? Is there anything we can do to help?
Well, they're talking about establishing a trust fund for that. The Michigan Municipal League really are great leaders on that in terms of being involved in that. And when time is appropriate, they reach out and call for everyone to contact their legislators. We're in a place where our legislators are always supportive of what we're trying to accomplish. Just given
they show up
the
and hear
nature.
us.
Yeah, exactly. So if there's, I will certainly keep you plugged in on that if there's action or things are moving on that front.
Okay.
And the other thing to keep an eye on is Michigan Municipal League has a blog that they update fairly regularly. It's called Inside 208. And that's worth bookmarking and checking in on occasionally because they keep you abreast on kind of what they're working on and what's moving. So that's a good place to stay abreast of
Cool.
what's happening there. Perfect timing for the next slide because here's the state shared revenue trend. The blue line is the actual dollars we receive from the state. And you can see that we're basically receiving the same $300,000 that we were getting from the state in 1985. And you could buy a lot more car or a lot more house for $300,000 in 1985 than you can now. So when you adjust that for inflation over time, it's the orange line. So that $300,000 in 1985 is equivalent to $700,000 today. So it'd be real nice if we were getting an extra $375,000 every year from the state for shared revenue. That would certainly help with providing services. And again, there's been movement on that. It's increased, it's improved in recent years. There's a long way to go to get back to where we used to be, and I don't know that we'll ever get there, but that's a constant issue. When you look at property value trends over time, this is the orange line in this case is the assessed property value versus taxable property value. We all know assessed value can increase. There's an unlimited amount. It's based on the market value of property, whereas taxable value can only increase by the rate of inflation or 5%, whichever is lower. So there, over time, builds up a gap in between assessed and taxable property values. When a house is sold, that's when the pop-up occurs, and the taxable value is reset to equal the assessed property value, and that's when we get the calls at City Hall from people who bought their house and saying, wait, what's happening with my tax bill? Because realtors are not always the best about making sure people understand that process. But you can see the impacts. There's always a lag between assessed and taxable property values and the actual economy. So really the recession of 2008 really started to bite around 2010, 2011. When you go back, you can see that impact right here as well. So that's what made the Headley override necessary. That was what flowed through to a lot of things, that problem. When you adjust taxable values, the blue is actual nominal taxable values, and the orange is inflation adjusted to 2023 dollars. Here you can see if that trend line pre-2008 had continued, where we would be. And again, this is one of the things that made that Headley override necessary. And again, every city runs into this. Huntington Woods has done Headley overrides. Berkeley just had one that was not successful. It's the way Michigan's local government finance system is set up. Over a long enough period of time, you're going to have to do one eventually. Hopefully not here for a good long time, but and you can see the impact of 2008 on inflation adjusted. We didn't get back to 2008 inflation adjusted property values until 2019. So it took over a decade for us to get back to where we used to be. So shifting from revenues to expenses, our total expenses per capita for fiscal year 22, this is all based off of F65 audit data provided to the state. You can see where we fall. Again, it's those 5 communities of which we're a part, but also Southfield. But we again fall at the lower end of expenditures for within those outlier communities. Royal Oak is also there as well. When you try to measure, we talked about this last month, but I think this is an important one, measuring affordability of local government services for the people who live in the community. This is total expenses per household as a percentage of household income. And this is total city expenses per household. We're actually at the bottom end. We're at about 4.4% of annual median household income here. And you can see what some of those happens in some of the other communities. So I think we're delivering services in a pretty efficient manner. Talking a little bit about some of our major cost centers. Our largest cost center is our police. Police expenses per capita, we talked about this last month, but small communities, Orchard Lake, Lathrop Village, Pleasant Ridge, we're all small. And having a police force requires a certain number of people, a certain number of cars. We just have more police officers per capita here because of our size, and this drives costs, but it's an important one. Fire spending per capita, we don't have much. We're at the lower end because we contract with Ferndale. So that's a place we gain efficiencies. And when you combine those together to look at total public, and I should also say that these are public safety communities where you have combined police and fire. So those communities are included in this graph. And you can see that we're delivering police and fire, public safety services in a very competitive way. Parks and Recreation, again, I have a pool. And finally, pension. This is good news. We passed the police pension millage in 2017. That was successful. The voters passed that, and you can see over time the structural decline as unfunded pension changes over time added up to create a pension funding issue, which we had to address. And starting in 2017, or 2018 rather, tax year 2018, extra funding became available to start to make extra contributions to our pension fund. And last year, the cumulative effect of making those extra contributions and also good market performance in 2021, you can see we made some notable improvements in our pension funding level. So this is good. We want to keep this, this going. We'll talk more about this for the pension grant that's later on the agenda. We expect this to look not as good next year because of the poor market performance in 2022. So as the market goes, our pension funding levels do move. But we've made a number of changes into our plan offerings that limit our future exposure to underfunded pension funds. And also we are now contributing every year necessary to fund those over time, which wasn't the case in the past. And part of that was on MERS because they didn't require you to. So that's the overview. I'd be happy to answer any questions. We didn't talk about any specific lines in the budget, but it's largely status quo. We continue to make investments in maintaining our infrastructure. Probably the biggest project that we're starting is looking at some renovation and upgrades to our DPW building. Tim, our DPW guy, works out of there. But the plumbing half works, and the heat is from a couple units that are probably over 50 years old, and it's been neglected and it needs some maintenance. So that's probably the biggest new expense we have in the budget, programmed over a couple of years. And then, of course, upcoming water main projects. And I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything else in the budget or in the presentation.
Did anyone have questions for Jim?
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. No, thank you for that. I think it's been, it was interesting to see the presentation. It's great to see us continue in this type of trajectory, and like no big surprises, and that we're on very solid footing. I wrote down a couple things because, as I've been going through the budget for the past 11 years, it's been really interesting to watch how it's been flowing and going in, going in a new direction. And it's one of the things that I've talked about with residents quite a bit is a budget reflects the priorities of an organization. And I feel this budget really reflects the priorities of our city and, the uniqueness of this place and what attracts people to Pleasant Ridge. What we have here in the city of Pleasant Ridge does not happen by accident. And our investments and processes help us continue to build our strong and connected community. And, the focus that we have on our funding, as we fund our awesome police department and fire safety services, the focus that we really put on our recreation facilities and all of our really strong programming that have been like the priority that we've seen in the master plan over the past few years. I think, the focus on all ages has really helped pull the community together. Also, our focus on prioritizing our parks and our outdoor placemaking have been really important. Well, with the, we see it with the pavilions and how people are they just show up there, and it brings our community together. But then also, we prioritize also supporting our clubs and organizations, and all of that, those priorities to our funding and the priorities of our infrastructure to keep our, we really prioritize, our infrastructure to keep our water clean, our roads and sidewalks well maintained, as well as really investing in our trees, which give all of us a lot of pride in our community. We also reach out, and I thought this was interesting today. I know you guys were at a regional meeting that, we reach out to other communities as, because we want to be part of the larger community, of the larger initiatives that help really support the value of our community. And I think, I love that all that is reflected in our budget. One of the other things that I think happens because of all those things is it helps us as a city make new people who are coming to the city, and people who have, been here forever all feel like they are part of something. And it helps, it was the best moment I had last week was I ran into TZ, or Ted Zachary, out on the street. And there were some neighbors who've been there for a couple years, but I'd never had a chance to really meet them. But Ted was out chatting with them. And it was this great opportunity. I was able to invite her to join me to the Women's Club brunch and things like that. But it's just, through having good sidewalks, so, people want to get out there and walk, and beautiful trees, and, a dog park, so everybody's walking their dog, around, headed to the dog park. It helps build this community. And so all of these things that we are funding through this budget, I think it's really exciting, and it is not tedious. It's very fun to see our budget presentations. And so thank you. So that's what I love the budget. I think it looks, it's great. And I'm excited for us to discuss this further. We are going to do a coffee with commissioners at some point in before the June meeting. So we'll keep you updated on a date on that. We all need to coordinate to make sure everyone can be there. And then, thank you for all the work. And I think let's just keep making things better in the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all.
I just have one comment, which is number. I want to reiterate what Commissioner Perry said about the coffee with commissioners, which keep an eye on social media, because what I know is that so far this year I've probably read through the budget like 5 or 6 times, and I probably will another 4 or 5 times before next meeting. And it's complicated. I mean, understanding what it all means is complicated, and also still understanding Headley and Prop A and how it all intertwined is complicated. So if anyone has any questions, if they want to review it, certainly reach out to me or anyone else, because this is really the time to look at it for everyone every year, and to look at it and to make comments. And so, yeah, I encourage people reading it. The summary is awesome. And just to approach us with any questions or comments, because this is the time when, input is important. Mm-hmm. All-time input is important. But, this is the budget, so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, as someone that's read other cities' budgets, this is actually easy to read in comparison to some other places. It's just, I can follow it. I should probably call it boring. There are sections that are kind of boring.
But not the front summary.
But not the
That's
summary.
riveting.
But it's well written. It's easy to follow. I do encourage folks to just open it up. There might be something that you think is important to the city, and it should be in the budget. If it's important, you got to put money on it, and just take a look at it and attend the what may become, if voted, the public hearing.
Yeah, if.
Yeah,
Fingers
right.
crossed.
All right. May we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move that a public hearing be established for Tuesday, June 13th, 2023 at 7:30 PM to solicit public comments on the proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 millage rates and the proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 combined city budgets.
Have a second. Any other comments? All right, let's have a vote.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes, the motion carries. All right, on to the MDOT Woodward Streetscape project contract.
Yes. So this is a moment we've been working towards for 5 years. Actually, more like 10. We have bids in that are very close to engineer's estimate for the Woodward Streetscape project. And this is specifically on northbound Woodward from Sylvan to 696. And the image on the screen shows the design for that project. So we know that there's the lane reduction occurring on Woodward in Ferndale. That will take Woodward from a cross-section of 8 travel lanes to 6 travel lanes. Once you get to where the underpass or ditch, it's colloquially referred to sometimes with great affection, goes, we have 10 lanes, 3 lanes on the surface and then 2 lanes that go underneath. So we are also reducing the surface level Woodward by 1 lane. There will be 2 travel lanes with a parking lane. And then you can see there's a curb, a 2-way cycle track, landscaping, and then sidewalks, which will be along northbound Woodward. It's going to be a lot of vegetation, grass areas, plantings, flowers, more trees that are going to be added to the streetscape, in addition to the cycle track lanes. So this project is being funded 80% by a TAP grant, Transportation Alternatives Program, awarded by SEMCOG and administered through MDOT. That's providing almost $1.4 million for this project. Our remaining share is about $425,000, and that's being funded by the Pleasant Ridge DDA. Given that it's a streetscape project within the DDA limits, the DDA can only spend their funds within the limits of the DDA, which is basically the commercial properties along Woodward. So they are funding this project. It's not coming out of the general fund or any other city funds. And these are just some of the design plans all the way from Sylvan north. So you can see from Sylvan where there's no on-street parking, there will be trees and a healthier landscape area provided between the travel lanes and the cycle track to make it feel safer. And then when you get past Maywood, well, there's the Comerica lot with its driveways, which make this probably the least appealing block along the entire segment. North of Amherst, the on-street parking comes into play and provides extra protection for the bike lane. Continuing from Wellesley to Devonshire. You can see at Devonshire currently where there's that small median island and the road splits, that median island's being removed with a new park, small park space being added. With the road being moved further to the south, this improves sight visibility, so it creates more of a 90-degree angle for people turning from Devonshire onto Woodward. It also narrows the amount of space that bicyclists and pedestrians have to cross. Currently, it's very wide. And it also moves this intersection away from the bend. You can see how much more space there is now between the turnoff onto Main Street from where Devonshire ends. Currently, it's quite close to where that happens. So cars will be traveling slower and there'll be less going on at that intersection. And then the cycle track continues northbound to the service drive. So all of this is currently those old sort of faded brick pavers being replaced with a lot of green. Should be a much nicer place to be. So the requested action is City Commission resolution or adoption of the attached resolution approving the contract for MDOT project 22-5185 and authorizing the city manager to sign the contract. Next steps, we can't schedule a pre-construction meeting with the the contractor until this is approved, but that will likely happen in the next couple of weeks. Construction probably begins mid-June, but all TBD. We'll keep you updated.
Thank you. Any questions for Jim? Right.
I remember talking about this DDA 10 years ago. It's been a minute.
Oh,
It's a process.
yeah. It's exciting that it's happening while the other work is happening. As you can see it all come together roughly the same time. I know that for a lot of people there have been comments about, construction and the what's the word I'll use? The unpleasantness of a construction and cone season that we're in right now in Michigan, but it'll all be worth it when it's all completed this year. And I'm really happy to see it come to life. May we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move to adopt the resolution approving MDOT project 22-5185 and that the city manager be authorized to sign the agreement.
Is there a second?
Support.
All right, let's have a vote.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yep.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes, the motion carries. Awesome. All right, let's talk about the Michigan Class Investment Pool.
Yes. This is an option available to the city. Through state law, there is the ability to create local government investment pools. PA 20 of 1943 establishes some very limited items, investment vehicles that municipalities are allowed to place excess funds in. So basically our fund balance in the water fund or our fund balance in the general fund can be invested in very certain and specific items. And I can go through that list if you'd like. But currently, we are members of the Oakland County Local Government Investment Pool. There is another one, Michigan Class, the Cooperative Liquid Asset Securities System, has been around for a few decades now. These are not banks, and there's no leverage on any of the assets that are placed in local government investment pools. So there's no risk of overall default other than any of the individual securities or investments that they invest in. So both the Oakland County Investment Pool and Michigan Class tend to put maybe 0.5% of their total overall holdings in any one investment. And these range from U.S. Government treasuries to money market funds, CDs, and commercial paper, which is short-term debt instruments that corporations issue. By state law, you can only invest in the two highest rating grades for commercial paper. So these are very highly rated and the lowest, associated risk with a commercial paper investment. Why are we looking at Michigan Class? Well, currently, Michigan Class and the Oakland County Investment Pool have different investment strategies. If you look at their list of holdings, which I did provide both of those to you this afternoon, I know you didn't have a lot of time to look at them. But Michigan Class invests more in commercial paper, and the Oakland County Investment Pool has more like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac securities. Oakland County, their weighted average, because they don't invest in commercial paper, and by state law, we can only invest in very short duration commercial paper. Oakland County Investment Pool is in longer term investments, which were made at lower interest rates. So the Oakland County Investment Pool has more interest rate risk. As interest rates have gone up, the face value or the market value of those investments that Oakland County is in has gone down because the face value has to adjust to make sure that it's meeting current interest rates. So Oakland County is returning about 1.5% right now. Michigan Class has been returning about 5% this year because it's more shorter duration and more closely matches the current federal funds rate. So having these two investment options available to us to move money back and forth. They're both completely liquid. Gives us the ability to place our money where it's going to work hardest for us, with a similar risk profile between the two funds. There is risk always with investment, but these are very, very, very low risk. One of the questions I had from one of the commissioners was performance from during 2008. And I don't have the specific performance for Michigan Class, but they do peg to a net asset value every day. And it's never been anything other than 1. Go ahead.
And do you have that in writing from, like, I saw you cited his comment, but like, do you have that in writing? Like, I'm comfortable if you have something in writing from him saying that never dropped below $1.
Yeah,
Put that on the phone.
it was
you know.
it was a quick call this afternoon. So
Okay.
if you wanted something more than the email from
It'd be
him,
interesting
then-
if they don't have the data. It's strange that they don't have the data from back then.
yeah, they switched providers.
I mean, but
Yeah.
I,
But I know that Oakland County, there was never a loss of principal. So during 2008, right, the concern is during times of extreme economic stress. The number one concern is obviously making sure that your principal, you don't have any loss of capital.
Right.
Your return obviously might not be great, but as long as you don't lose your principal, that's the number one consideration. With all the bank failures, that's because they were leveraged. They had Silicon Valley Bank invested in long-term, they kind of did what they were supposed to do. They invested in longer-term government treasuries that had a low interest rate, 1 or 2%. And then as the interest rate went up, the face value of those financial products went down. And then there was a run because they're a bank and they take money and then they lend it out over and over again, and they didn't have enough to cover their deposits. That's not the case with the local government investment pool because they're not taking and lending out money. You put the money in and that it's there. So, yes, there's risk. If 2% or 3% of the securities underlying default, then there's, that 2 or 3% of the total principal is lost, but that's why they spread this risk amongst all of the securities they invest in. So the difference between 1.5% and 5% for us would be $150,000 a year, which is not insignificant. That's money that our fund balances would be generating more for us. Basically is why we're bringing this. Plant Moran, who works in a number of other communities across the state, suggested that they've had good experiences with this, so I looked into it and thought it was worthwhile bringing to you for consideration.
And, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and there's 650 other communities that are members of Michigan Class, and they're actually the location for the state's personal property tax reimbursement program. They're the partner, the financial partner for that program. So the state of Michigan is also members and affiliated with this. So, please, any questions?
Yeah, I think for me, the key takeaway is it's another lever. So it's not guaranteed to be the highest yield forever, but
Right.
it's not hard to get out of it if we wanted to and move it into another account of some kind that might be performing better. And the more levers we have to make choices on investments, the better off we are as a city. So that's kind of how I look at it. At the moment, it's performing better than the Oakland County account. So why not take advantage of the money that we can make now? And if things swing, then we have another meeting.
Exactly. And currently, we're invested currently in a Comerica money market fund. So we have our 4 primary places where our money is located. We have our accounts at Fifth Third. That's where our working capital is located. We have an account at Comerica, which is just there for investment. There's a J fund and a money market fund. Money market funds are primarily commercial paper, the same thing that Michigan Class is primarily invested in. We're a little bit above that $250,000. That's the insured limit for a bank. So if we had Michigan Class, we'd probably reduce our Comerica investments down to $250,000, move that money to whichever investment pool is performing better to minimize that risk.
Sure.
And then, it's next day. With the Oakland County Investment Pool and Class works the same way. It's just you call them up and the next day the money's transferred. And we did discuss this with the investment committee as well. The last month's been a blur, but
Yes.
when is the next investment committee meeting?
meet quarterly.
So 3 months minus 2 weeks, I think. roughly.
So,
Like, is it on the books, I guess?
yeah, it's always the second or third Monday. I'd have to look at my calendar.
We actually were
Okay.
the last of the week because one of the members wasn't available, but
Does that mean in person? Can I join the next one?
it's an open meeting.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, it's a subcommittee, so as long as you're the only other person joining it.
Yeah.
A subcommittee of,
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. The investment committee is created by the city commission, and Mayor Scott serves on it. But for open meetings purposes, only one other commissioner could join.
Right.
okay. Yeah, because I'd like to better understand like what the overall, like I'm fully supportive of it. 5 is bigger number than 3 or 2 or 1. So it's green and pointing up, that's good. And if that's the case too, maybe we should move like more or most of the money into it.
Right, that's an option. We have $4.2 million in the Oakland County investment pool.
So, like, if it's the best call, like, I just want to understand what our risks are. Then also just looking on their website, their returns weren't consistent. Like, I don't have it right in front of me, but like over 5 years, it was 1.5, and then
Yeah, because this is
sent it to
largely.
you guys too. Like over the last, I think it was March 31st, was where they drew the line. Like over the 12 months preceding March 21st, it was something like 2%. So
Yeah,
like,
because if
the,
you.
the last 2 months have been awesome at 5. So I just don't want to make sure we're not jumping at 5% when the last 12 months preceding March 31st, which was only 6 weeks ago, was in the 2-3% range.
It's just like a money market. If you look at money market rates and what those have done, it's 100% tied to the federal funds rate. So that's why, lately it's been doing very well for Michigan class. Looking at a 5 or a
savings
10
accounts.
or a 1-year return rate, it's going to be correlated almost directly with that the federal funds rate. Over time now, Oakland County, this is where it becomes advantageous to us, because if Oakland County is investing in things that have, a year and a half or 2-year weighted average to maturity, they'll be locking in rates at 5% now, which will carry through for a couple of years. So if rates ever get cut or start to go down, it absolutely would be advantageous for us to take our money out of Michigan class, which might, as a short duration investment strategy, is more connected to current money market or federal funds rates. Oakland County will probably have a better return at some point throughout the cycle as well. So this gives us
That
the
we can
ability
lock into.
that we can lock
enjoy
into.
while everyone else is going down.
Exactly. So we can choose, what gets us the best return. And, even if those periods of difference, as funds rates stay stable for a long time, you'll see Oakland County and Michigan class returns will be very similar. It'll level out and, they'll meet over time. So we'll figure out what to do over time. But, if we have these periods where we can get a better return for a year or two, I mean, that,
Whatever.
yeah.
Yep.
It could be the difference of $300,000 for,
Yeah,
the
a
city,
couple
which
years,
is
yeah.
not insignificant.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll monitor and
And please invite me to the next meeting, because you guys have been throwing out a couple specific numbers, and I'm still unclear of like how much money we're thinking about putting into this bucket. So like when we're saying 100,000 or 12,000 or whatever, I guess that would be helpful to know. So just, yeah, please include me in the next meeting. But I'm supportive of the idea of having an additional lever at a greater rate. That makes sense.
Are we ready for? Did you have a question?
Yeah,
Sorry.
Mayor, thank you. No, I was curious. Yeah, so how did we come to class versus, let's say, an online bank account where you get 4 or 5%? Or just curious how we decided on this lever versus maybe another one that's available to us.
well, again, trying to stay out of the banking system because this is a local government investment pool, so it's fundamentally different than a bank because there is no leverage. They're not using this money to make money for themselves. They're purely a public body. So that's why we never suggested looking at, other banks. We have limited exposure at Comerica, which I've never been particularly comfortable with, but that's why this came about. There's not many local government investment pools out there.
And I hadn't even actually thought about this until you said it, but our budget's bigger than $250,000.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
so we're always going to have more than that amount of money to move around, and this just gives us one more place to put the money and avoid this FDIC insured issue
Right.
that we might see at some point with that 5/3 or something else.
Yeah, I mean, looking back at the records in 2007 and 8, the city opened up a lot of money market accounts at different banks because they were in one money market account that had all the SCAF money. Because the city used to, back in the 2000s, it was common to have 5-6% federal funds rates. So at that time, the SCAF fund was used to offset road project costs, and it generated $150,000 to $200,000 a year just from being in a money market. But it was in one money market at Comerica, and so that was exposed. So the Oakland County local government investment pool became a bigger part of the city's excess funds package because it doesn't have those risks you get with a bank.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's all there.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
But also the work the investment committee has done has been significant at increasing the SCAF fund and everything like that. So
They have a good track record.
they have a very good track record. So
We try.
I'm always excited to see when you guys find new tools and things like that. So thank you.
All right. May we have a motion?
Your Honor, I move to adopt the resolution approving Michigan Class as an authorized investment institution, authorizing the city manager to complete the necessary paperwork to enroll in the pool, and the addition of Michigan Class to the city's investment policy.
I second.
All right. Why don't we have a vote?
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes, the motion carries. Okay, let's talk about the pension grant.
Yes. So the state legislature awarded, granted, or appropriated, I think that's the word I'm looking for, $750 million to the Michigan Department of Treasury to operate a local unit municipal pension principal payment grant program for qualified retirement systems with a funded ratio below 60% as of December 31, 2021. You may recall, if you were paying attention earlier, that our pension fund was actually 66% funded as of our last valuation. But that valuation came out in June of 2022. So as of December 31, 2021, the best data anyone had was our previous year valuation when we were at 59% funded. So through this grant program, we can participate. We are eligible to receive $47,453 from the state, a maximum award. Those awards will be determined after they get all the applications in, because if the city of Detroit comes with, some sort of crazy request, it could eat up a lot of those dollars quickly. So we don't know, but that's our maximum award. The requested action is for the City Commission approval of a resolution authorizing me to file a claim, and this is language straight out of the state's requirements, to file a claim for grant payment from the Protecting My Pension grant program.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, let's have a motion.
Your Honor, I move to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to file a claim for grant payment from the Protecting MI Pension Grant Program.
Second.
Any further comments?
It's great.
Yay.
Yeah.
Let's take a vote.
Commissioner Budnick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lenko?
Yes.
Commissioner Perry?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmier?
Yes.
Mayor Scott?
Yes, the motion carries. Wow. We've made it to the city manager report. He's speechless.
I know. Who had this in the over-under? But nominating petitions are available at City Hall. This fall, there are 2 city commission seats that are available, so anyone interested in running can come to City Hall and pick up a nominating petition. It requires 25 signatures of qualified electors from amongst your neighbors, although get 35. And those are available. Those are due by July 15th? July 25th. But get them in by July 15th.
Yeah.
We talked about the Woodward project and how this is 10 years of work that's finally coming to fruition. It is good. We were at a meeting today with all the Woodward communities. We were hosting it at the community center. And MDOT is beginning the process of doing a corridor study for Woodward to look at, the next cycle and the next round and the next vision for the road. So it's pretty exciting. The good news is that Ferndale and our projects will be done. This project really will probably start to kick off in earnest next fall, winter. So our projects will be complete when this corridor plan process begins. And it's an MDOT process, so it's not a local, kind of visioning thing. It's geared towards creating a plan for the corridor, for MDOT, for the future to guide their investment. But it's good that they're doing this because it does give the communities an opportunity to participate and weigh in and be part of that process. We also have the Safe Streets for All. We talked about this grant. We're also starting the process of getting an RFP together for the 7 communities, southeast Oakland County communities that have our Safe Streets for All action plan grant coming up. So we'll be working on that to work on moving towards Vision Zero, so no traffic or transportation or pedestrian or bicyclist deaths. Wanted to give you an update on, stay tuned. There'll be more opportunities for the community to participate, certainly through that process. But again, that'll be next winter. Dog park lighting. Haven't forgotten about this. Still working on getting a photometric plan. Contractors are very busy right now, and a one light pole photometric plan has not been on the top of their agenda list. If you've hired an electrician to do anything lately, I think you know how it is, and this is the equivalent of installing, one plug. So we haven't forgotten about it. Still working on it. Calling them every week to remind them about it. And Woodward Heights, I know this one's been hanging out there as well, waiting for the final conceptual design plans from Tool. Looking like we're moving to alternating parking, so moving the parking, so it's not parking on both sides of the street, but the parking shifts from one side of the street to the other as you go through the corridor, creating some movement. And also some improvements at the west end of the street towards Woodward to implement some traffic diverters, center islands there, all through paint and plastic to begin with. It's looking like the long-term plan includes some raised intersections and some other vertical elements, which take more investment to accomplish. So that'll be what we work towards and start applying for grants to implement that. So that should be coming. As soon as we get that plan, we'll bring it to the commission for you to approve moving forward with, and then at that point we'll have the city engineer package it up for bids to get a contractor in to do the paint and the plastic to get that in place. We also have the Sylvan traffic calming petition, which I haven't forgot about that either. It's been moving a little slower than I would have liked, but we will start work on that to see what the residents of the first block of Sylvan want to do. That's all I have. It's May, so again, we have Memorial Day coming up. Please join us for that. You'll see all the mulch has started going in. We planted 70 trees, or we're in the process of planting 70 street trees. I think we're close to full in terms of all of our.
Are we over 2,100 now, probably?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
certainly. Yep.
Need to have a tree for every resident, right?
Close. If you count our park trees, I think we do.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So trees per capita, if I had a graph for that,
Right.
it'd certainly be at the top end.
Any comments about the progress on Woodward? Is there anything? I noticed a post that you'd made. I think it's just moving along, and
Yeah, it's moving along. The only time we got comments is when MDOT closed the underpass northbound without telling us, because they were doing resurfacing work north of 696. So much like they closed the underpass southbound north of Woodward because the lanes are closed once you come out of the underpass here. It was the same up there, but that should be over. I think they're just doing real quick mill and fill north of 696, so that's a fast process. They're switching to the outside lanes, so at least that should be behind us. That's the only time we've really gotten complaints here, because that was the only thing that was notably different in terms of slowing traffic down.
Yeah. What is the MDOT project, like the meeting that you were today, like what is what type of things is that regarding?
So this was something that it was really just kind of local community agitation. We all have a lot of this. We have similar but different issues along Woodward. We all share common ones. I know the chief was at a meeting where everyone along Woodward is complaining about the noise. We're not the only ones who get complaints and have to deal with the fact that for whatever reason traffic has gotten louder and more aggressive sounding lately. That's a common thing all along Woodward, and our tools to deal with that are limited by state law. But this was, a lot of the Woodward communities being just kind of dissatisfied with this pace of progress along Woodward. And MDOT has come and engaged in these meetings with Oakland TSC leadership and regional engineers,
That's cool.
which is great. And so out of this is the corridor plan, which is an important internal step for MDOT. Doing a corridor plan is a meaningful thing for them. So we've just been getting together with mayors and managers to convene as Woodward communities to talk about, what we need.
Oh, that's cool.
You mentioned in the meeting today that it may have happened before, but they couldn't think of an example where there was a corridor plan that crossed through this many cities. So not only for them to be able to sort of hear all of the communities along Woodward, but help us work together to come up with something is actually quite a special thing for them too. And just, please stand by, because they don't have all the answers to how this is going to work, neither do we. So I think it's going to be a good group and a good, the study should be really good.
Yeah. And it should be completed by 2025. So again, patience.
Yes. Complete study before
Okay.
complete street.
Right.
Regarding the noise on Woodward, I know last year Operation Decrescendo, right, started. That's still in place. Is that still in? Yeah, I'm assuming as we get into summer months and as noise picks up.
Yeah, it has.
Yes,
evening.
it has.
So last week I attended a meeting called, basically held at the county by Sheriff Mike Bouchard. All the Woodward chiefs were invited from Ferndale all the way up into Pontiac. Many of those communities the city manager had mentioned were the noise. Obviously we were prepared. Sergeant Reed kind of spearheaded that Operation Decrescendo, and some of them weren't even aware that that was in place. So I took the flyer, I took pictures of our signs that we have decibel meters. So many of them were encouraged by that and thought about implementing that. The sheriff was concerned in asking for, should there be some sort of task force in place where a city who's having extreme, because Pontiac's seeing a lot of traffic way up there and in the turnaround and everything, and unfortunately had that drag racing and a pedestrian was killed.
The mortgage company.
Right, and that spearheaded this meeting. And the only issue with the task force is officers from other communities going to another community and now become involved in something where there could be liability or something. So that's a meeting for the legal minds of each of the city to address. Is like Pleasant Ridge officer goes up into Pontiac and they go to stop somebody and there's maybe a vehicle pursuit. Now somebody gets injured. What are the ramifications of that? So that's a big hurdle to jump. And I would say that the MML and MMRMA would be, hey, I don't know about this whole task force thing. Each city handles their own. So that was some of the issues, but the sheriff took it very seriously. He wants things done. He liked what we had presented last year. Ours is still in place. With the warmer weather, you can tell today the amount of people walking around and everything. And you've heard some of the noise, even with the two lanes closed in both directions.
Which has been surprising, actually, because I thought about that with the noise, thinking
Right.
like how is this happening with two lanes?
They find a way. They find a way.
Yeah.
Like I was here all day today, and I handled 2 accidents on Woodward, which were minor accidents, but it happens. Most accidents are caused by human error, rarely engineering, and rarely vehicle defect. So human error. So yes, the Operation Decrescendo is in place. Other cities are looking to adopt what we implemented last year, and you'll start seeing the signs and everything else. And I know many residents were happy, even if they didn't see us doing something. They saw the signs, and in their mind, the problem's being addressed.
Right.
So
Excellent. Thank
Okay,
you.
you're welcome.
And I do encourage people that if noise is important to you, then this is a perfect example to write your state legislator, because ultimately, to resolve the issue, it's going to require some change in Lansing that can then filter down to us so that we can issue tickets electronically or just do something to address noise differently than we can today.
Awesome. I just had one other comment, if I may. Just
Sounds like other business.
Oh, it is. Sorry, God.
I'll move
yeah.
on to other business.
Yeah, sorry. It's been a long. Well, it's Tuesday. I was going to say it's been a long week, but it's Tuesday. Oh, I just wanted to say, for anyone watching, to make sure to follow the City of Pleasant Ridge Facebook page. I've noticed the increased posting on there, which has been awesome, and Commissioner Perry is always great to share it to the other pages. But just to make sure you're on there. I mean, I'm assuming as the communications bumps up, we're really seeing that change on the city page. So make sure you follow the official page.
Thank you.
There's a link at the bottom of the homepage on the website, little Facebook logo. Click on that, it'll take you there, and you can follow it.
Excellent. Awesome. Perfect.
Also, the YouTube channel, so you can watch
Yes.
all of
Excellent.
these meetings.
Excellent. Excellent. So if you haven't done that, make sure you like Facebook and save YouTube to your favorites.
Yeah.
Cool. Does anyone else have any other comments?
I got a couple little
Sure.
things whenever, however it fits. But so Jim, just wanted to say thank you. I appreciate that summary email with all the cool things that we've been able to accomplish. And I just wanted to like the owl box for rat control, the 11 o'clock pool hours. It's been a pleasure working with you on those initiatives, and I'm really happy to see them over the finish line.
Yeah.
It's fun too, like living in a small special city where grassroots ideas can percolate up and be implemented, especially low cost, no cost kind of things, where it doesn't have to hit the budget necessarily. So, and kind of on that DIY volunteerism spirit of the neighborhood, this coming Monday at the community center, we're going to be having a small little get together at 6 o'clock to put together a what's called a volunteer corps. It may end up taking form as like a time bank, so it's kind of reciprocal on both ends, but really to help serve senior citizens and give volunteers a chance to, you know, like if there's people who are able to climb up on a ladder and change a light bulb, who are working at home and are able to do that at random times in the day. That's part of the special charm of this neighborhood. So we want to help try to put those together. Somebody posted on Facebook. I helped connect some dots, and Shawnee was great in getting us some space. So I was hoping Ted would still be here because he committed to join us, and there's going to be a handful. But if anybody else is interested in joining, also using technology, I ran it through ChatGPT, and we've got an awesome skeleton of this thing ready to go, and also looking at other forms of incorporation organizations such as DAOs. I don't know if you're familiar with decentralized autonomous organizations. We may take an experimental approach too. So just to kick the tires of what's out there in management world. So anyways, that's all I got. So the seniors next Monday at 6 o'clock, Owl Box. Oh, and big idea, but fireworks are scary for dogs and some people. Drones are an alternative solution for celebrations like Independence Day, etc. That may be something cost prohibitive for a small city like ours, but if the county or if Huntington Woods, Royal Oak, and Pleasant Ridge threw down on something, that might be an interesting alternative to a loud, noisy show. You turn on the radio, it broadcasts the audio, and you watch it in the sky.
Yeah.
So, that's my idea, dump. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you.
Mayor, one thing, I just wanted to congratulate Kirsten on her second
I know.
and somehow cramming together 260,000 pages. No, honestly, it's amazing to step into a position where someone who was there for 25 years, and I'm sure there is a little bit of a learning curve and all the things that
Just a little bit.
come with someone. Amy was, she was the legend procedure here. So to have, I just wanted to pass along my congratulations, I guess. Job well done. So that's happy to see you up and running.
That's awesome.
Yay.
Just like, what do we say?
Kirsten's been doing a great job, and yeah, it was fun because it's one of the largest agendas we've had in the almost 9 or 10 years I've been here. So it's really great timing for that. But sink or swim.
Jump in the deep end.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
I have one more thing, sorry.
Yeah.
So I just want to invite everybody out there who might be watching, and I want us all to sort of put a push to invite people to the foundation auction. It's one of those things where, for many years I didn't go because I was like, I'm not sure I'll know anyone, or, I wasn't sure sort of what the whole thing was about. But it is one of those things that really is a great place to actually meet people. A lot of times when you go to a party or you go to a thing, it's hard to meet people if you don't have a group of friends there. But this one, several of us will be there, so you can talk to us. But it really is pretty easy to meet neighbors and things like that. And so that is on Saturday, May 20th. It starts at 5:30 or 6 p.m. I forget, but we'll push the information out there. And then 5:30, and it's up at the community center. It's a great time. It's tickets are $70, and all the money does go towards helping. Well, the proceeds the proceeds go towards the Pleasant Ridge Foundation, which is focusing on an arts initiative for the city and many other projects. Like they funded the pool chairs and they've helped fund the children's playground thing.
over the years.
It's like they've touched everything in the city in a good way.
They're currently funding the new scoreboard,
And the new score, swimming, swim thing.
amongst many others. So tickets are available where, Ann?
On the foundation website,
Which is?
pleasantridgefoundation.org.
Yes.
And so you can go there and get tickets, $70. You can probably buy them at the door. Well, we don't know. They have a
Might sell
limit
out.
thing.
Yeah,
They still
last year,
have-
last year it sold out.
I would
So
suggest
do
if
buy
you wanna
them
go-
now online, and
Okay.
we'll all be pushing it out there and telling all our neighbors and talking.
We're
to
all
everyone
going,
in the
right?
city.
We all have tickets?
I think
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah, I think we
auctioned
all- yeah.
off, so I have to.
And this year, it's been held for, time out of mind in the parking lot.
Right.
But this year, now that we have the big room and the garage doors and the patio, it's actually going to be held in the park
Nice.
behind the community center. So the bathrooms are a closer walk, and we have more kind of a friendlier space. So I'm looking forward to seeing it in its new location. Because really, I mean, the last one was, the big room wasn't done the last time the foundation did a proper auction.
Right.
With COVID and everything in between.
Yeah.
Well, and that patio has just been proving to be such a just beautiful location for events, and it really creates it's beautiful placemaking. So it's a pretty spot. So if anyone
The
has
patio is
questions,
also funded in part by the foundation.
That's right.
well, beautiful job on that
Yes.
one too.
Mural.
So hopefully we will see you there. If anyone has questions, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. Our email addresses are also on the city website. So that's all.
Cool.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I think we're ready to adjourn. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thanks,
Huzzah.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,